Dear friends, let us start discussing another interesting concept in literary theory. This time we will discuss the concept of the problematic as enunciated by Louis Althusser, the French Marxist thinker. What is the problematic? In fact, the discussion on the problematic occurs in two of his writings titled For Marx, number 1, and Reading Capital is the second work. In these works, Althusser refers to the problematic, and he also suggests an alternative kind of reading in order to avoid or in order to locate the problematic, called symptomatic reading, through a process of double reading. So these three concepts are interrelated: the problematic, double reading, and symptomatic reading, which was later taken up by people like Pierre Macquarie in their works. Now let's see what is the basic concept called the problematic. According to Althusser, ideology is a closed system. It's a closed system because it remains within certain fixed boundaries, and it is often thought of as a mythic realm without contradictions. And therefore, since it is a closed system, it must stay silent on certain questions that threaten to take it beyond the fixed boundaries. And this kind of a formulation of the concept of ideology leads Althusser to the concept of the problematic. He first uses the term problematic to explain a kind of epistemological break that he claims occurs in Marx's works in 1845. Say, referring to the late works of Marx, Althusser identifies a kind of epistemological break in his own writings. According to Althusser, a problematic consists of the assumptions, motivations, underlying ideas, etc., from all these things, a text is made. So a text is made of certain assumptions, motivations, underlying ideas. These are the constitutive elements of a text. In this way, it is argued by Althusser that a text is structured as much as by what is absent, what is not said or stated, as by what is present or what is said in the text. Althusser argues that if we are to fully understand the meaning of a text, we have to be aware of not only what is said in a text, but also the assumptions that inform the statements contained in a text. One way in which a text problematic is supposedly revealed is in the way a text may appear to answer questions which it has not formally posed. This is a very interesting statement by Althusser, that some texts attempt to offer answers without ever posing questions. They, conveniently ignore the questions but offer the answers to these questions. So there are certain areas where we can say that something is repressed or something remains invisible, and something is explicitly stated, therefore constituting presence. Thus, we can think of a text, particularly a literary text or any other kind of cultural text, as made up of presence and absence, which will be later used by Derrida in his deconstructionist methods, talking about the presence of the absence and the absence of the presence as trace. Derrida does it later. But according to Althusser, every text is made up of two aspects. One is what is stated, and the other is what is not stated or what remains invisible or repressed within the text. Because these elements which are repressed represent the problematic of a text. In the later writings of Marx, for example, Althusser finds certain such repressed things or certain answers given without ever posing the questions. Actually, Marx, in his own reading of the classical political economy or the works by Adam Smith and Ricardo, himself found that there is the presence of what is now described as absence, even in the very presence of the writings of these two great economists, Adam Smith and Ricardo. While they talked about labor, they essentially talked about labor value, which was not the subject to be treated in economics, or which they did not aim at. So without asking the question about labor value, when they talk about labor, they accidentally talk about labor value according to Marx. And the same fault is now found in the writings, later writings of Karl Marx by Althusser, and he says that there lies the problematic, and which essentially leads to what is called a kind of double reading, which he recommends, that we have to look for presence as well as absence while we read a text. And this kind of a reading is named the symptomatic reading by Althusser, and which was used to the best effect by Pierre Macri in his A Theory of Literary Production, which appeared in 1978, which can be thought of as the most sustained attempt to apply the technique of Althusserian symptomatic reading of cultural texts. That is all about the problematic of Althusser and the concept of symptomatic reading. Thank you very much.